Today's episode is brought to you by applaudable.net.
What you say to yourself then generates some sort of emotional feeling, and emotions drive behaviour.
That whole concept of a growth mindset and a fixed mindset you referred to in the book of the use of the word can't. And I know with young athletes I've worked with, I add the word yet at the end if I have a child that says, I can't do that. I say, you can't do it yet. So that changes the whole perception of what's possible. But interestingly, you take it a step further and say we can't do things quite a bit to ourselves. Some things are realistic, we can't do them, like we can't fly, so I can't fly, and things like that. And you say there are some real can'ts in the world, but a lot of the barriers we put up for ourselves with the word can't, you said to change the word and try and ask a question like, I won't do that. What does that mean for you when you change it from can't to I won't, and what's the outcome from you not doing that? So do you want to speak to a little bit of this concept of how changing some of these words and putting them in a different context and then asking a question can actually help develop your growth mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it taps into that notion of the importance of the way we choose to speak to ourselves. And even in the way I've just phrased that, notice the word that I used, the way we choose to speak to ourselves, like it's a choice. And it is a choice. It's just that often we don't pay attention to it, so we go on autopilot. And I'm always saying to people that we have so many habits in place, and habits are great because they save us from having to think. Because we make so many decisions every single day. So if you've got a sequence of things that you do as part of your morning breakfast routine, that's great. You can kind of go back into autopilot a little bit and make your Weet-Bix and do whatever it is that you're going to do. The challenge with it is, though, that habits are great because they save us from having to think, and habits can be terrible because they can save us from having to think. So we really have a lot to gain if we do pay a little bit of attention to those words that we say to ourselves. So the example you've given is such a great one. So if I say that I can't do something, and as you said, there are genuinely some things that we cannot do. But I give the example sometimes of an athlete that once said to me, I don't go to the swimming trainings in the morning with the team because I can't get up that early. Now, and so at that point, and I knew the athlete well enough that I could push them a little bit on it. And I said, okay, well, that's interesting. I said, because have you got an alarm clock? And the athlete looked at me and said, well, yes. And then I said, and so you've got swimmers and goggles. And he goes, well, yes. And I said, so it's not that you can't go swimming early in the morning. What you're saying is that you won't. And what I always say to people is, it's about being honest with yourself and being able to differentiate the facts. The fact is we can't fly, from the stories, I can't get up early in the morning. Now, you might not like getting up early in the morning. That's true. But it's really, in the instance of that athlete, it wasn't that he couldn't get up. It was that he wouldn't get up. And what I always say is just ask yourself, is that a good choice? And for him, he said, well, I can swim in the afternoon, Joes. And I went, great. Swim in the afternoon works well if you prefer to swim I prefer to exercise in the morning, and I don't like doing it in the afternoon as much. So, I get that. But if that's his only opportunity to do that thing, then again, is it a good choice? But I do really encourage people to think about the phrasing that they use around all of their language. I was working with an organisation yesterday, and someone made the comment about, they said, I only work 3 days a week. And I said, well, what if we just got rid of that word only? Because by saying I only work 3 days a week, it almost sounds like an apology. I said, what if it was just I work 3 days a week? And you could see the person, and because the reason that the language is so important, and sometimes people wonder why I get so finicky about some of these things, the reason it's so important is what you say to yourself then generates some sort of emotional feeling, and emotions drive behaviour. So if you're apologising for yourself, if you're feeling bad about what it is that you do and so forth, you're less likely to make choices that you're going to feel good about. So when we use language that is helpful and, where you can, where it's positive, if that's going to resonate for you, then we know from all the research that is a performance enhancer.
Thanks for joining us for a basketball conversation. Feel free to start a conversation of your own with other Ozswoosh superfans by commenting below. And I look forward to sharing our next conversation with you soon. I hope you'll join us again sometime. Catch you later.